Are you ready for the eclectic one? AKA Pat is here.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. So look, everyone. We're advertising Uzi Susie right here, available on Etsy. Down below, we're advertising Trial by Fire, 69 pages of new comic book hotness, available now on Indiegogo. And cheers to you. I need some of this. Had a long day. I think I walked about 6 miles. Snow-ridden Philly. Had to do some errands. Had to buy some hiking stuff because I'll be hiking next weekend. Got to work those legs. Got to get that cardio going. And along the way, I hit this one random bookstore, and I was able to get this Joe Madureira Battle Chasers. Got this for price tag still here, $9. And then there was a comic shop literally right next to this used bookstore, and I was able to get X-Men number 325 for $4. Now, the previous weekend, I started to rebuild my Joe Mad stack. So let's get some of this stuff out of the way. So the Joe Mad stack, I'm just going to preview it real quick right here. So all this was from a comic convention minus right here. So previously, I saved from like my great big purge that I always discuss. Previously, I saved only one Joe Mad book. And this is my original drawing table copy of X-Men 328. I think this is not only Joe Mad's absolute best issue. I think it is some of the best comic book coloring for the day. Stacked. This is probably the best X-Men single issue of its era, of its time. And by that, I mean post-Jim Lee. So, we're going to be doing something cool coming up. We're going to go through the career of Joe Mad to a certain point, because he left comics, he went into video games. I don't know why you would leave comics to go into video games. Video games is so complicated. Video game development is like the worst thing ever. So, just to give you guys a couple previews. So I'm retooling Trial by Fire as a campaign. This most likely will be TBF down below. This will be a new cover. This will replace the existing cover. And that cover might get used as a poster. And then from previously, 2 nights ago, we did a live stream where we were creating some new Uzi Susie characters. This is the Glock Panther. He will premiere in issue 3 of Uzi Susie, but he will get the trading card treatment relatively early for early adopters. All information on that is coming out. One of my goals for this coming week is to really hone in on my messaging when it comes to announcements, updating everyone, and doing more through email than I normally do. Or at all, because I really don't do much through email. So let's get into this. You want to ask yourself, Pete, we're here for comics. We're not here hanging out with you. Oh, I got to hit those comments. I'm sorry. Oh, geez. Joe Mad, yeah, unquestionably an influential artist. Everyone, I'm quoting Skull Diamond here. An inspiration of mine for encouraging me to mix anime and American comics as well as hybrid art style. I could not have said it better myself. So here's the big thing. Okay, and Skull Diamond and I, we're going to combine forces. We're going to bring everyone I would say vintage anime goodness, because I don't know what's happening with anime today. I don't know what's happening with manga. I haven't seen anything interesting that optically that I would want to participate my time and money in for about 20 years. That's how long it's been for anime for me. So during the 90s, anime kind of went from here to here. It infected American comics. This is the infection of anime and manga in American comics at its absolute height, and we can chart it with pretty much the style and presentation and illustrative like quality and power that Joe Mad has, because he brought in a lot of these abstract anime like styles, like not so much styles, the effects of anime, like the energy. There's all of these things, and I'll point these out as we go along. But there was a culture within the presentation of Japanese comics that he was able to bring into the X-Men. It seems like from his early days, he was predestined and designed to eventually take over X-Men, and he was actually curated and groomed from high school to go into Uncanny X-Men, where he was not able to have a consistent run. He, like being a young artist, X-Men's a hard book to draw. I think his biggest, we'll see it because I'll outline it. His biggest run might have been 6 issues, like 6 or 7 issues straight, which is insane. But Joe Mad also was a part of comics' greatest event, which was Age of Apocalypse. We can easily say Age of Apocalypse is the greatest event in comic book history. So what we see here is this is my Joe Mad collection and Joe Mad checklist all in one. So 1992, he drew 2 issues of Excalibur back to back. These are on my list. Excalibur versus X-Men. This is towards the end of his run. He also participated in 2 more issues, and 2 more issues, and I think 1 more cover of Excalibur. Excalibur was a book that was teetering off anyway at this point. He does cite Alan Davis, who launched Excalibur as one of his influences. He drew this cover. Like, that's really it. We can really see. Let me grab one of my what we got something here. We can, even with Nightcrawler's face here, even with Beast's face, we can see the Arthur Adams influence. He cites Arthur Adams, the Arthur Adams long shot. Big deal. He was somewhat of an Arthur Adams long shot clone until he rolled in this anime style, this anime influence. So we go here. Deadpool Circle Chase, 4-issue mini. With the rise of Deadpool, this used to be a 5-cent comic. It's $50 or $60 range now to get all 4 issues. I still think that's a bargain. I think value-wise, this will only go up in value. So it's good to get it while you can. And then here we go. We got Trauma Corp #1. So when I got back into rebuilding my comic book collection, I stumbled upon this. I think I paid 25 cents for it, probably less. You can see the quality is not there. This is a very bad reproduction of a Joe Mad cover, but this is his Excalibur Deadpool Circle Chase style. He's still not Joe Mad yet, but we do see some of the anime influence. This would be the hair and the guns. Modern day Image comic influence for some of the gear. And there we go. Like, we're off to the chases. He also did an issue of Vanguard with Eric Larson. I believe that was issue 3. That's one of his best fight scenes. We do have his best fight scene. 2 of his best fight scenes in here, starting with X-Men. So I'll point those out as well. So let's march along. Issue 312, 313. These are his 2 premiere issues of X-Men back to back. Like I said, he doesn't draw consistent issues because, right, 316, 317, I don't have. And then here we go. We have, so he's drawn roughly 4 issues of X-Men at this point. We're marching into Onslaught, okay? Who Stopped the Juggernaut? This is a great issue of X-Men because we're going into Age of Apocalypse. So here, let me just pull this out. Okay, because we kind of have this right here. So even though Joe Mad did not illustrate this cover, this is one of his all-time covers. This is one of the great covers of X-Men, like, of the day, of the time. if you saw this, you bought this. And I love, look, this is 3D rendered fonts here. Okay, so we're done with like the regular comic book looking fonts, and we're doing 3D fonts now for X-Men covers. This is drawn by Tom Grummett, who he's still in the game. I can't tell you exactly what he's working on now, but Tom Grummett is one of the consistent greats in comic book history. I think he did a what was it, Zero Force? He for Ape Comics or Empire, some imprint within Image Comics. He did it might have been called Zero Factor. He did a lot of really cool work. He did some creator owned stuff. He was drawing Robin with Chuck Dixon during the spoiler arc, which is a incredible arc. So anyway, you got to love Tom Grummett, but I keep this in here just because I love the cover so much. Astonishing X-Men 1 through 4. So now we're within the Age of Apocalypse. This was not only Joe Mad's, like I would say, coming out party, but so many of the actual designs that led into action figures very early were Joe Mad designs. Joe Mad had a rival, and Marvel didn't shy away from employing that rival. You need some heat on some of these guys to produce the work. So in the middle of Joe Mad's epic X-Men run, we have this. Carlos Pacillo did the cover. Carlos later would take over X-Men. He had a very commanding run. Later, career-wise, he lost so much of the style that was great within that X-Men run. He brought some of it to DC, but nowadays his style is just, I don't know, it's maddening. I never understand how people really lose a lot of their style as they get older. But the guts of this comic is Roger Cruz, who right now artistically, you follow him on Instagram. It is phenomenal. And everyone too, look, we have a Tom Grummett ad here for Comics Zone, the video game. So I told you, Tom Grummett is for real, okay? This is in here because without Roger Cruz, we would be very confused with the productivity of Joe Mad. And I say this, like, let me just kind of elaborate. Roger Cruz was aping Joe Mad at the time. Marvel employed him to fill in the blanks for a lot of Age of Apocalypse and a lot of the X-Men. He later would do X-Men, which was a spin-off of Age of Apocalypse in a Joe Mad style. And this was Marvel's way of just saying, look, we love your style. We want to go in this direction. And Joe Mad just was not productive enough to get regular work through Marvel. So they gave it to Roger Cruz, and he had, I think he was on maybe like 50 issues of X-Men. I kind of want to say on and off, but I believe he actually had 12. He was on the book for maybe 2 years straight before any of that. Now, that would have to be confirmed, but I'm a big Roger Cruz guy. So anything he does, and even now, it's very important to me because his style, like he grew so much as an artist. He continues to grow. These are the things I subscribe to. Okay, so Wizard Magazine featured X-Men 325. You could track down that issue. I don't have the exact issue, but there's documentation of Joe Mad working on this cover in Wizard Magazine. It really blew my mind to see how detailed his line weights were and how clean some of his pages looked, but it just looked arduous. It looked like it took a while. We got to point out Tim Townsend here is coming in with the inking. Tim Townsend understood the actual visual language that Joe Mad was laying down. Tim's line weights here is a masterclass of what to do with a brush and quill. A lot of this, it's tough for me to say, but a lot of this seems like it's brushed to me. So this issue opens with now the major X-Men trope that we love about the team. I can't say too much about the team nowadays because, well, give me 1 second. Sorry about that, everyone. I accidentally unplugged. Uh, yeah, Jeff Matsuda was pretty on fire. Yeah, yeah. So, and I believe Jeff Matsuda, wasn't that the Eric Larson written? Like, wasn't Eric Larson writing the Jeff Matsuda run where he like put Wolverine in space? I really would love to do a deep dive on Jeff Matsuda, and somewhere around here, I do have some original pages of his Extreme Studio stuff. I think I have 1 or 2 sketches from Jeff. Yeah, uh, humane garbage, humane garbage. Oh my god, I absolutely love the creativity of some of these screen names. Hold up here though. I'm getting an update on one of my friends here. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thank you for everyone that just updated me. Thank you for telling me that the stream went dead. But thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So Jeff Matsuda came in through Rob Liefeld. He was a Brigade artist. I believe his first book was Brigade number 0. And then he later would do Kaboom with Awesome Comics and Awesome Entertainment. Later went to Image, but his Kaboom work with Jeff Loeb, which was actually a pitch for Nickelodeon to become a movie with Joe Mad assisting on some of the concepts. So it's Jeff Masuda and Joe Madureira are somewhat linked through the Kaboom project. I have the Kaboom stuff here ready to go. So yeah, I'll be doing a deep dive into Kaboom also. I think that's one of the best, the overlooked, underrated books that came out through like the early 2000s. But so real quick though, so we're getting into X-Men as a trope. Every single artist, every single major artist who ever touched X-Men, and this is the problem with the modern day X-Men books, okay? X-Men R&R, Jim Lee drew X-Men playing basketball, and Gambit was cheating. The X-Men need some sports R&R to show off their powers, show off their camaraderie, and actually show off how they're a little bit dysfunctional. This 325, okay, is somewhat of Joe Mad's coming out party to saying you're among the legion of X-Men artists. You are in path of Dave Cockrum, right? Technically, we can say Jack Kirby, but not really, because I don't think any of Jack Kirby's strong work was in X-Men. But we pretty much have Neil Adams, Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, Jim Lee, and Joe Mad. And it dies with Joe Mad because X-Men should always lead the future of American art in comics. Okay, and this is why this is so progressive. Okay, this is why this is so important, because we have the East and the West merging within this style, and we have Generation X playing ball against the X-Men, and we have, look, this awesome giant Robo reference. And I want to say that Joe Mad drew some giant Robo at the time for Wizard magazine, but giant Robo is such a forgotten down the memory hole anime. It is totally cool. But what we can see here is, again, the X-Men being dysfunctional, trying to play ball. Okay, everyone cheats, they use their powers. Again, this is a trope. We have his Colossus design that really hasn't been brought to 3D. They haven't ever made an action figure of this. They never really made a statue. Colossus was coming back into the X-Men ranks storyline wise because he was a disciple, an acolyte of Magneto, and he actually went against the X-Men. believe it or not. No one bought that, by the way, and no one really cared when he came back. They kill him, and then he comes back in Astonishing X-Men, and no one really cared either. They wanted to care, and then we have some fantastic establishing shots here. But then we just really have the X-Men doing X-Men things in their anniversary issue. And here's the big thing, okay? This is why when I work like over here on Uzi Susie gets 2 new villains every single issue because like, and it's the same reason here. We comic books are exciting when there's always something new. Okay. Joe Mad really did contribute new designs, new characters, new ideas into the X-Men that these haven't been reharvested. A lot of his designs and characters just went away because time marched on, but people will return back to some of these characters. Yeah, it does. Yeah. So Art Adams is 1000% a true influence to Joe Mad. He's always been vocal about that. Like real quick, I'll show you. Like, let me just get back to this cover real quick. If we go into this Excalibur cover, these are Arthur Adams' faces here for some of these guys. Okay, technically Arthur Adams' shading and line work and some of his hatching. Later, when Joe Mad would do a run of Marvel Comics Presents in the early 100s, for I think between 100 and 120, there's so much Arthur Adams in his Marvel Comics Presents work. So we also have to note, okay, because some of this is Joe Mad, but some of this is the sign of the time and the true fall of X-Men comics, the true degradation of where the X-Men are now versus this. We have to note, okay, the bright colors, the contrast, okay? I think the coloring for this stuff and the choices for the backgrounds and making things pop is absolute perfect. This approach is not there today. It's there here and there, but not wholesale, not as like a company-wide direction. So yeah, so we have some good stuff here. Look, I love that someone tore out these promo cards. Because look, everyone, when I buy my comics, I want them to be beat up. Like, I don't need a mint comic. Yeah. Darkstalkers. One of my tabs on this list too. One of Joe Mad's big return, quote unquote, into comics was Udon Studios' Street Fighter issue 1, where he did like a 5-issue penciled backup. And let me tell you, when that came out, you had to buy that Street Fighter comic because Joe Mad drew it, and it was like the first time in like 10 years he was drawing a comic. But this is great. I always loved this silhouette here. And this is so cool. Look, she's dueling with Marrow with these like bone blades. And they jump, like they do their samurai jump, and then look, this little piece of hair just like flicks off of a Storm. Just really cool stuff. So again, very, very anime, very manga. But we can really see, look, Storm literally rips out this girl's heart. She rips out her heart. Like, welcome to the X-Men. Total excellence in the house. Thank you for joining me. Total excellence. We're talking Joe Mad. Sit back and enjoy yourself. Rewatch the beginning of this video if you want a little bit of context in this. But to give you guys a good idea, Joe Mad was curated. He was created by Marvel Comics. He was a freaking intern. Has that story, worked in the mailroom, was a gopher, and Marvel told him, when you graduate high school, you're going to draw Uncanny X-Men. That's what they gave him. And during high school, he was actually pumping out and working on Marvel Comics. He's the greatest high school kid to get into pro comics like ever, okay? Because he was fully formed. The big problem with Joe Mad was that he could not be consistent. He really couldn't. And even to this day, and we'll see some of that coming up. So this was also one of my go-to issues. Joe Mad did have the idea to be, I say this a lot, economical with some of his page to page. Okay, so when he needed to, look at this Gambit here. Like, what a cool shot of Gambit. This is also when they were trying to rehab Sabretooth. So Professor Xavier was trying to do work in Sabretooth, and Sabretooth was like hiding some of his personality from Professor Xavier. Later, to beat the hell out of Psylocke, we'll get that in the next issue. But we see this. See, there's a lot of issue between Gambit and Sabretooth. This is building into the trial of Gambit. Gambit was a part of these guys named the Marauders. They killed a lot of mutant children, the Morlocks in the sewers. This is a part of X-Men lore. Later to come to fruition, this was maybe a plot point 20 years in the making, and Joe Mad was really the guy pushing this narrative between Sabretooth and Gambit here. But like Joe Mad too, like just some of these like upshots and just the way how he's choosing his lines, like the big chunky hand. These are the characteristics that really make Joe Mad Joe Mad. This panel here too, like we're having a flashback. Sabretooth in his day, we're retconning, we're putting Gambit in here, but this was the Mutant Massacre. This was a Chris Claremont story, and Scott Lobdell wedge Gambit into X-Men history, X-Men lore, and this is one of the reasons why Gambit became and continued to be popular, because they injected him into X-Men history. But that's what I mean. Like, see, Joe Matt, like, very good with some of the economic panels, just telling the story again. A lot of silhouettes. Silhouettes save time. I always say, if you know you need a panel somewhere, just as like the flow of the page, make it a silhouette. Make it a silhouette. And again, to like almost a silhouette on every single page. So 326 is a solid issue. And here we go, people. This is what I consider. We're going to get my original drawing table copy here. This is what I consider Joe Mad's masterpiece. Chris Sotomayor is the colorist. This is also one of his best works. And Tim Townsend coming in, T-Dog, who would sign his stuff. Tim Townsend really on all cylinders when he comes to interpreting and finishing Joe Mad's artwork, because that's what inkers do. Final Fight Guy in the house. Thank you so much. Yeah. Joe Mad, by the time Joe Mad got into Marvel, he was like the best of the youngest to get in at that time. His Image Comics contemporaries really, like, J. Scott Campbell wasn't as good. Brett Booth wasn't as good. None of the extreme, like Dane Fraga, wasn't as good when they got into comics as Joe Mad. We can make the comparison. The only person that is comparable to Joe Mad to when they broke in quality-wise is Michael Turner. And there was actually somewhat of a rivalry between the two, which is also really good stuff. Oh, geez. Ultimates 3. We got Ultimates 3 in here, by the way. We're going to be going through it. Yeah, Ultimates 3 is ballsy. I respect Ultimatum and Ultimates 3 for its balls. It was just such a different tone compared to Ultimates 1 and 2 that, I kind of rejected it at the time, but it is incredible to look at. And it has a lot of that very cinematic type storytelling that Jeff Loeb is very famous for. Here we go. Look, this is what I mean about some of the coloring for this. And this is Sabretooth's. This is one of the best issues involving Sabretooth. In my view, this issue, 328, this should be like a $50 comic. But look at this. Okay? Now, keep in mind, Joe Mad isn't over-rendering his pages. Tim Townsend is allowing Joe Mad to keep things wide open for the colorist, okay? Oh, no, geez. Electric Crayon. Chris Bacalito is the colorist here, not Chris Sotomayor. My mistake. Okay? Everything's wide open to let these colors sing. Look, the green floor like green floor, green background. Like again, we're being very economical with some of this. But the idea is that Sabretooth somewhat tricks Professor Xavier. And Professor Xavier lets Sabretooth a little bit off the hook. And we have Boom Boom here. I believe this is a storyline a little bit that went into X Factor. I kind of want to say X Factor. Yeah, dude, Michael Turner, like, can we just say Michael Turner has drawn the best Doomsday and top 2, top 3 Dark Sides? Because I would give John Byrne the first Dark Side and Michael Turner the second Dark Side. Yeah, the rivalry between Joe Mad and Michael Turner goes into Cliffhanger. They wanted Michael Turner to leave Top Cow, bring Fathom into Cliffhanger, and Cliffhanger was going to be Danger Girl, Fathom, and Battle Chasers, but they got Crimson from, what's his name? Ramos, which Crimson's the most complete story of all of those, because it went on for like 3 to 4 years. Crimson has like a solid arc, solid ending, incredible artwork. Ramos drew every single issue of Crimson, but Cliffhanger should have been Image Comics like the 3rd generation, and really should have had those 3 guys. But here we go. So Boom Boom makes a mistake, lets Sabretooth out, because Sabretooth's manipulating everyone in this. You really see how evil Sabretooth is. But look again, mastering those upshots. But look at this. Look at the size. Oh my God. This just gets my jollies off. And then we have this. Psylocke comes in, saves the day. We still have to admire this green background for this. But see how everything's wide open? And we have some of the inking. So the inking for Tim Townsend is just these like motion lines from the silhouette here. See some of the quick like whips. Okay. The energy kind of like popping up when she lands. This is a lot of the anime tropes. This little panel sequence here, just give this to Frank Miller, because this is very Daredevil Miller-like, but it is freaking cool. And Sabretooth just literally destroys Psylocke, because Psylocke even gives him like the psychic punch in the head. Can we also admire like the hair? Like his flips of hair are just incredible. And then here we go. Look at this sequence. Like one upshot, that's all we need. Blood splattered. And then here we go. And check out Tim Townsend cranking out these bold lines. This was the trope during the day. There's a lot of inkers. You wanted to bold out, just do these thick outlines. Jeff Masuda, very guilty of this also. I think Larry Stucker was inking him on Wolverine at the time. But this is great. And look, dude, look at that. And see what I mean about the energy, like the dust and the energy coming in. Like, this is the manga side of the influence. Everyone wants to say manga's just like Big Eyes. Joe Mad was incorporating all of manga into his style at this time. And there we go. Look at that. Like, great cliffhanger. Like, incredible stuff here. Yeah, I mean, you don't have... Look, I'll say it. You don't have to draw your backgrounds all the time. If you have a new scene, a couple of establishing shots, we'll do it. Because you have to keep a deadline. We're missing issue 329. So this issue I just bought recently. Okay, I never went through this issue before, so this was always on my list, and this was always kind of a part of like the Joe Mad. Like Joe Mad, I think, wanted this issue. This is also a good like month to month type book, to where like every single month, like you have this like overflowing narrative, right? And we have like A plots, B plots, C plots. But then every single once in a while, you need to stop all that, like, and then do like a one shot, and then later pick up some of these other plots. Okay. This is one of those issues. This is like a breaker issue. This is very much like, 325 opening with that baseball scene. But this is Joe Mad, like putting the X-Men in the environment that he wants to draw, and this is Marvel just saying, "Look, Joe, like what do you want to draw?" And he's like, "I don't know, like I want these guys to go to Asia. I want to draw Doctor Strange, and there we go." Yeah, Dark Knight Strikes Again. Oh my God, like no backgrounds in that. But look at Joe Mad's Doctor Strange. Joe Mad also did an X-Men Spider-Man issue that is absolutely phenomenal. But see, like, again, economic with these silhouettes. And then we got Gambit mourning over Psylocke because of what happened with Sabretooth. But then we just kind of have this random side adventure here. Right? Just like totally cool stuff. Joe Mad got to the point where you wanted to see Joe Mad draw every single Marvel character ever. Like that's really, and then look, we have some of the Ultraverse. Ultraverse will be a future study coming this year for me. We're going to do a lot of stuff in Ultraforce, and then pretty much the B plot for this issue, we end some of the Psylocke saga, and then here we go. So Onslaught update inside. We've been inching towards Onslaught. So I believe after this is where he's drawing Astonishing X-Men. It was hard for me to kind of place that. Joe Mad has drawn one of the greatest juggernauts ever. Now, we're on a little bit more of a newsprint with I would say this is like a semi-gloss. The previous issue, see, this is straight gloss. So Marvel's getting maybe a little bit better with how they're printing because we want blacks to be blacks. When it comes to printing, it's the same issue as when you're buying a TV. Like the blacks sometimes disappear. It's hard to do dark colors. When you're printing, it's equally hard to do dark colors. But look at his Juggernaut just swimming like underneath the ocean, doing messed up things. We got Chap Yap here drawing a Veins ad, like boss level here. But see what I mean by just establishing shots? Like, we just need to know they're in the X-Men mansion, and then like all the backgrounds just disappear. But we got a lot of dialogue here. We have a great Cyclops pose. Again, look at some of this energy. Some of it's lost with the coloring. Great pose here by Jean Grey, just looking HOT. And we can kind of make her right. So Psylocke now has emerged out of her coma. She now has a tattoo on her face. This became the staple of Psylocke's look for maybe like another 10 years. And look at this. Look at this Juggernaut. Like, holy crap. Dude, he had, like, everyone gives Jim Lee so much credit for Gambit. Gambit wasn't the monster he was, the coolness monster he was until Joe Mad drew him. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Joe Mad's the one that made Gambit cool. And then we have this. There we go. We have Cannonball. So Cannonball, storyline-wise, okay, we kind of have to touch this real quick. Let me see. Do we have another Cannonball? So Cannonball was being set up as a higher force, somewhat celestial, I believe. They wanted Cannonball to be like later what they would always label as like Omega level mutants, which is completely silly. That's the Grant Morrison contribution to X-Men that helped destroy X-Men. But they were building Cannonball up to be like almost like a B character, because he's still a B character on New Mutants, B character on X-Force. But they were building him up to be like top level, and they were going to show off his powers and kind of retcon that he was a little bit more than a mutant. So he starts showing up in X-Men for an issue that we have coming up here, which will be Joe Mad's second best fight scene next to that Psylocke Sabretooth fight scene. Then we got Sebastian Shaw here. We got Clayton Creed. So this is a long-running plot thread. This is another long-running plot thread. But we are just like, look at his Juggernaut. Like, look, the giant chunky hands. Look, and he's just like screaming and Jean Grey like blowing back her hair. Just, I mean, like, but look at this, like, just the impending doom, the master of the upshot. And then, like, we're kind of like almost done here. Incredible coloring to the shade of blue. We have X-Men now coming out of Age of Apocalypse. His rival, Roger Cruz, is now drawing X-Men at the time. Later, Rob Liefeld would win a huge lawsuit for X-Men because he's a derivative of Nathan Summers, and he would get money owed to him through Marvel Comics. So that's some of the lore there. But look, this pretty good scene here. Like, you know that they're in the sewer. Again, when in doubt, silhouette. And then we have Onslaught coming. So Onslaught is really what I consider the end of the Marvel Universe. So to me, like, the Marvel Universe that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created in the 60s ends with Onslaught. And then at that point, we kind of have a Marvel Universe 2.0. But the idea that Onslaught took out the X-Men, took out the Fantastic Four, took out the Avengers, and you know, and then like have this like pocket universe created by Franklin Richards, a little bit of a retcon there. I like the idea that, you know, like, you can read and love and collect the Marvel comics up until Onslaught, and you can just say it all ended with Onslaught. I'm perfectly happy with that. And then here we go. We got 335, 336, 337. So starting at 335 is his biggest run because he goes from 335 all the way up to 340. Yeah, 343. Right? 342, 343. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he almost does 20 issues in a row, maybe. Angel Reborn. So this is one of the travesties of this era of X-Men. The transformation of Angel to Archangel through the hands of Apocalypse is one of the pivotal moments, not just in X-Men, but in Marvel history and comic book history. It's one of the few times that the villain legitimately gets one up on the heroes, and it has a long-lasting effect. So here's what they do. They just kind of magically make Angel's wings shatter off and to reveal wings. And then we have some of like Apocalypse's disciples in the mix here. And here we go. So this, I think this itself hurts Joe Mad's legacy a little bit on X-Men because he's just involved with this really backwards decision. And then the other decision, editorial-wise, that Joe Mad had nothing to do with is the Fury, the Berserker Wolverine, Barbarian Wolverine, or the Neanderthal Wolverine with the no nose and bone claws. So Wolverine just was not an element at this time. We also have this Magneto clone duplicate double. So these storylines really became tough and confusing post Onslaught. This is a reason why we just want to be happy and say Onslaught ended the Marvel Universe as we know it. Moving on. Yeah, horrible idea. But we do have this now troped pose that is copied, duplicated, triplicated. This pose now is classic. I'm all for it. Look, Psylocke is basically phasing through a wall here. Psylocke always just got new powers. Whatever. I love the zero background here. But look at the energy wisp. Really cool stuff. And look, he is the master of screenshots, team shots. And we have his design Quicksilver costume here, which I always loved. That later became an action figure, I believe. And it's just really tough. Really tough. Some of these I don't suspect as Joe Mad pages or panels. But again, always the master at the profile shot. Good silhouettes. Being very economical. Some of these pages in here are clearly not Joe Mad. So keep that in mind. But here we go. You know, I mean, we're marching on. We're marching towards this return of Apocalypse. After just getting Age of Apocalypse. A Son in Pain. This was like Winter 5 Wizard 96 Fan Awards. This was always said to be one of the great single issues of the time. Clayton Creed coming in. Clayton Creed is the one that pushes the legislation to ban mutants. This is a part of X-Men Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past is now taking 30 years to come to fruition. Always love this panel. I don't know. Joe Mad seems to make black backgrounds work really well. Like, you gotta give it to him. Look at again. You're on the deadline. You gotta put something on the page, and you have to make it yours. Like, whatever. Joe Mad knew how to do that. But you really see, like, you see a bunch of this struggle. And look, see, this is more of this, like, berserker Wolverine that's emerging. Just not there. Again, really nice, thick, chunky lines here for Storm, breaking all the panel planes. Storm's hair here is one of his contributions. Can't say I'm crazy about it. Clear Final Fantasy influence there. But we're looking pretty good, though. I think we're looking pretty good here. So, and here we go. So this is why I was kind of marching towards some of the X-Men stuff, because we have this coming together, this definition, we'll call it, of Cannonball's new ability to take on Gladiator, which Gladiator at the time is Marvel's Superman. He legitimately is Marvel's Superman. And it's cool that he's a villain. It's cool that he's an alien. Like, it's just all this stuff. It's like just endless cool stuff. And here's the thing. The Psylocke Sabretooth battle is a ninja battle, essentially. Okay? It's kicks, jumps, slashes. This is a superhero battle. This is Dragon Ball Z in comics before Dragon Ball Z really hit the next level. So we're going to go through this. We set it up. We need a Christmas scene. Again, we got to slow down some of it. Skull Disposable Assassin also. I've been reading this. God, I love this comic. It's so wild. But again, too, like, see the anime effects here? Tim Townsend, too, doing some great stippling on the bear. But here we go. Look at Gladiator just picking Cannonball up by the head. But Marvel wants you behind Cannonball here. Okay? I'm just going to look at some of this. The idea is to build Cannonball up to be a next level mutant. And he's got to go toe-to-toe with Gladiator, which at this time, there was only a handful of Marvel characters that ever went toe-to-toe with Gladiator. Gladiator really was the Gladiator of the Marvel Universe, and he was not to be defeated. Cannonball being able to go one-on-one with Gladiator was a really big deal at this time. And then we have this, like, again, this relationship between Magneto and Rogue. B-plot here. Keep in mind, this is a clone of Magneto. They retconned this. It would have been nice if they stuck. I always felt like that was a little bit of a mistake. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this sequence here. See, it's big, small, big reversal. But see what I mean by Dragon Ball Z? They're just like zipping all over the city. Dude, he lays in the Cannonball, gives him everything he has. And Cannonball, see? Cannonball wakes up. Was that your best shot? And Cannonball now has entered into the Marvel Universe as a major character. Here's the great thing. This arrival doesn't have a big payoff outside of this issue. I hate to say it. They kind of botched Cannonball at the time. So, okay, so Jeff Masuda on Wolverine, Joe Mad on X-Men, and then we have Ed McGuinness on Deadpool. This is the trifecta. This is like the anime era of Marvel's mutants, and it could not be better, could not be cooler. Thunderbolts preview. So 342, 343. We have another run here. 45 for 6 for 7, 48. He misses 349, 350. I don't have. I had the holo. There's a holo foil version of 350 that I had that I really threw out that I had no idea was like a $50 to $100 issue, but whatever. The trial of Gambit, and then we're done with Joe Mad in Marvel. And at this time, he's trying to get into a fantasy book, and there's nothing for Marvel at the time. This is what leads him into Cliffhanger, The Gathering of Heroes. Here's the thing, Cliffhanger. We have one preview. The Frank Vanzetti issue 2 is a preview of Battle Chasers. That is represented here at the end. This is a great trade, by the way, because this really has everything. But we have this. This is what the Frank Vanzetti magazine published. They go character by character, okay? And it's just a introduction to the world of and the history, right, of Battle Chasers. It's actually pretty cool. So we have that in here. There was nothing for Joe Mad at Marvel, so he at one time, this is so similar to the creation of Image Comics. At one time, everything he wanted to draw here could have been a Marvel character, could have been at Marvel. Marvel really technically should have should have published the Joe Mad drawn and created Battle Chasers. Like, that's just flat out missed opportunity there. It's tough sometimes to negotiate and deal with this stuff, but yeah, this is technically qualifying too for Wildstorm Wednesday. Wildstorm Productions and Jim Lee were drifting away from the Wildstorm universe, and they were becoming more of a publishing house. They had Homage Studios, Wildstorm, Cliffhanger, ABC Comics, and I always forget the fourth one, or the fifth one. But Cliffhanger was there. There was like 2 waves of Cliffhanger. The great underrated one is Steampunk. That was such a cool book. The crown jewels is Danger Girl and Battle Chasers. So this is now Joe Mad gathering the storm, and people want to cash in on self-published comics. This is like the appeal, because Marvel made him into a megastar. Wizard Magazine solidified him, and now you get to go off and make more money, keep more of your own money, and then everyone flocks and follows him. Look, Tom McWeeny as good inking Joe Mad as Tim Townsend. We have Christian Lichtner doing the colors. Liquid coming in doing the colors. Liquid was a powerhouse. I believe Liquid's still around. And I'm not familiar with Aaron Lucen. Richard Starkings and Comic Craft doing the lettering. So we're just going to flip through some of this. So the Liquid style at the time was they kind of did, multiple terms at one time. See how some of this black runs into this line here? That's called haloing. So you can pencil and ink, see right here? You can pencil and ink haloing. You can also color haloing, meaning you're adding lassos around everything, and you're doing these like real poppy, shiny lights. This was the signature for Liquid. Liquid did Eva Promethea, drawn by Ali Garcia. That might have been a Wildstorm book also. The Liquid coloring for that series, look that up, is a definition of their style. But this is where everyone's really on all cylinders. Joe Mad is at his height. McWeeny is at his height. Liquid is at their height. Jim Lee, giving and creating this opportunity for everyone, is really at Jim Lee's publishing height. But this is really just Joe Mad's fantasy of this crazy universe, all of his ideas, all of his influences. Storyline wise, flow wise, this is so much more like better, comprehensible, understandable than some of those Image comics that came out a generation before Joe Mad. The lessons of Image comics were learned and then applied to this. I believe we have the Wizard. This was the Wizard 0.5 issue. And then we're going to have the Frank Vanzetti issue right here. This is the magazine. And then we also include, look at this awesome list of all the alternate covers. Yeah, right, yeah, and the pops and the highlights even for Soul Saga, it's really good. I mean, Liquid to me was always the guys to pay attention to. And then we have a really nice documentation of all the different covers for Battle Chasers. Travis Charest. And like this was a great addition to buy because you got everything. Joe Chido. I mean, just really, really cool stuff. And look, we even got David Finch, Ed McGuinness, and then we get some sketch work. These are still covers. Like this was from the Wizard Cliffhanger insert comic. So really, this is one of the best editions. There's 2 volumes of this. And then here's the awesome thing. Battle Chasers ends on a cliffhanger. He really never finished the story. And then we have The Great Return. Street Fighter Udon, Street Fighter Issue 1, 2003. So I bookmarked the original print date of Battle Chasers. I want to say 1988. 1999, is that really? Is it really? It might be. So we have like 10 years. We have a 10-year gap. Joe Mad comes back with a sequential book story. It's in Street Fighter. Street Fighter comes from Japan. Joe Mad's obsessed with video games, manga, and anime. This is it. This is like he's returned. We get like 5 penciled pages, which is almost like the same team here. Right. Christian Lichtner colored that. And then now we have the Joe Mad with no inking. You can say what you want about this. I'm not crazy for the pencil Joe Mad, okay? I'm really not. But I think this is important to kind of understand the flow of his career. I really do believe like the Joe Mad I grew up loving ends same as Onslaught. It ends with this. I would like to know and understand as much as possible going into this. I really don't care anything about the process of this, but I do believe it's really cool to look at. Some people like this story. But here we go, okay? And we're just going to flip through this. This is very important, too, just to focus on WandaVision. Look, this storyline, too, somewhat solidified the idea of the tortured Maximoff family. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, that later went into like House of M, even though these are separate universes. But the idea of the tortured Maximoffs and them like basically affecting everything within the universe, it kind of like, I believe it kind of started here. So you got to give some credit to this. But when this came out, this was a big deal. And it really disappointed a lot of people because Jeff Loeb does stuff like this. He throws, I mean, we get this like Hawkeye here. The Heroes Reborn Hawkeye, the Rob Liefeld one with the Wolverine hair, with the Wolverine fins. No one liked this. But Jeff Loeb kind of just, he lets his people, he's like, what do you want to draw? And like, it's like, I want to draw Black Panther fighting Venom. And it's like, fine. And then like they kind of reverse engineer it from there. Like, and it sometimes hurts some of Jeff Loeb's books that he lets these people do this. We gotta give him credit for back-to-back amazing Quicksilver costume design. So, but like this book has a coloring. This book has an attitude that really is a stretch from Ultimates 1 and 2. People wanted Ultimates 3 to be like Ultimates 1 and 2, but we do have a great gimmick here, where Quicksilver catches this bullet that's assassinating Scarlet Witch, and the reveal here that it went through his hand, and it hit her, and then she died. So this sets off Magneto. This goes into Ultimates, where literally Magneto, like controls the axis of the Earth, flips it, and like kills everyone. And then the X-Men catch up to him and later kill him. I love Ultimatum. Ultimatum's a great 6-issue storyline drawn by David Finch. But yeah, like again, we're like Sabretooth fighting Captain America. Great fight scenes, like all of his tropes, down shots, profiles, great looking hair, well placed silhouettes. He's the storytelling is way better than it's ever been. This is probably one of his best panel to panel demonstrations that I think he's ever had. It's just the idea of, do you agree with the presentation? Do we agree with the inking? Do we agree with the pencils or lack of inking? With the coloring and how well this fits within the Ultimate Universe? Like I say all that's a negative, because everything, the Ultimate Universe was everything at the time. They were doing things better than Marvel proper, in my opinion. I just really like looking at this. But I don't care much for what's happening inside the panels. But I think this is a great crash course on coloring and mood. Like, look at this store. Like, oh my God. Like, what is happening here? Really great stuff here, everyone. I got this for 50% off last weekend. And then we have the death of Quicksilver. Now Magneto, tortured, loses his children. House of M, Wanda realizes that her twins are not real, whatever, and then creates House of M and goes crazy. Avengers Disassembled kind of starts that storyline. But yeah, and then we have like a nice, like these were all covers. Like, look at this. See this? These were covers by Joe Mad. This is how Joe Mad like sold stuff. I mean, like, he could sell comics. Then, like, again, like, just wildness, everyone. It's just fun, okay? It really is. And then that's it, everyone. Like, this somewhat of Joe Mad's career in a nutshell. Now, what we're missing, he did a great run of PlayStation Magazine covers. Great Mortal Kombat cover. He's done a lot of covers. Everything he does now is penciled. It's not inked. But throughout his career, he's become more of a cover artist than sequential guy. Very much like J. Scott Campbell. You got to give Michael Turner a lot of credit, because Michael Turner Michael Turner did both. He became a cover guy and became a idea generator, a talent curator, like incubator so much, with Aspen. But then he did covers and contributed to storylines with sequentials. So it's tough, man. Like, in the long run, Michael Turner was way more important to comics than Joe Mad. Joe Mad backed out. He backed out, went into video games, and kinda that game, that Joe Mad game, never really came out. If you want to continue some of the tutelage, there's a Darksiders art of right now on Amazon. I think it's about 30, might be $50. But at one time, Darksiders Volume 1 and Volume 2 were like a $500 and then like a $300 book. It would cost you $1,000 to get the two of those. They went into reprint. They're available now. Darksiders 2 is far better than Darksiders 1 when it comes to seeing Joe Mad's artwork. Okay? So everyone, thanks for hanging out. We'll be doing these soon. We're going to be doing a box open. Joe Mad did 2 trading cards in this set. So, that's another Joe Mad connection for you. Everyone, thanks for hanging out. Cheers. Happy Saturday. Get out there, create, go do something.